For the panel discussion today, is going to be circular economy strategies for the future. I will introduce the moderator, the panelists, then thereafter hand over to the moderator to continue from there. Let me start with bringing on Mr. Moderator, Mr. Onimole Omobolaji, is the Director, Development Partnership Department, Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget. Please, let's put our hands together for him. The panelists include our dear friend from Holland, Mr. Luca Polidori, Program Manager, Holland Circular Hotspot. Ms. Josefine Koehler is Program Manager and Consultant, Circular Economy. Is she around? Ms. Josefine Koehler. Or is she joining us online? Okay, I think she's joining us virtually. Technical crew, please take note of that. I hope we have linked up with her. Mr. Opeyemi Orinowo is a name I like to call all the time. Policy, Netherland, Consulate of Lagos. His name speaks about money. Thank you very much. Mr. Bennett Obasiohia is of Eunomia Consulting. Mr. Bennett Obasiohia. Is he also joining online? Okay. Mr. Sunday Adejoh is of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN. Please, let's put our hands together for him, please. Technical crew? Okay. I think the virtual participant is already online. I would now like to hand over to Mr. Moderator.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's been a wonderful day or 2 days going, and we would like to appreciate everybody for being part of this process. An auspicious one, first in its kind. The governor and the deputy governor, we appreciate their presence yesterday, and every other captains of industries, friends from Netherlands, the Holland Circular Hotspot. Basically, what we're talking about here is all about how to increase the product life cycle in order to prevent, too much, moving into extracting finite materials. So I have on the panel with me physically Mr. Orinowo, the policy advisor in the Consulate of Kingdom of Netherlands. And I also have beside me Mr. Luca. No, I don't want to misspell it. Luca Polidori. Yes, I got that right. The program manager for Holland Circular Hotspot. Then I have the Mr. Sunday Adejoh, right? Yeah, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. So I'll just hit the ground rolling. So basically, what we want to do now is to start walking the talk. And what we want to achieve is find a way to come up with strategies, framework, and how to develop concepts on being able to implement everything we've been discussing about. So I would like to start with one of the progenitors of this program, Mr. Polidori from Holland Circular Hotspot, to give us an insight on how Holland, as in the Kingdom of Netherlands, have been able to start the implementation of the process for movement from the linear model of economic management to circular economic management. Thank you.
Sure. Does it work? Yes. So basically, the Netherlands are seen as a front-running country in many, not only for outside Europe, but also in Europe. When you see the ranking of which countries are the most circular and the most innovative, the Netherlands are always in the top 3, top 5, whatever. I don't think that we are superior. I just think we started much earlier, and this is given because country is a country which has more than half of the surface under the level of the water. So people understood pretty soon the importance of collaborating in order to face social challenges. And already in 1800, they started having collaborative approaches. They started to understand that in order to grow, in order to bring prosperity to the country, you have to collaborate and not only have a competitive mindset, but also a collaborative one when you see at that. Of course, in 200 years of history, a lot of things changed and there was a lot of improvement on the environmental side, but the moment where the different environmental topics became all classified under circular economy can be seen as 2013, where the European Commission released the first circular economy action plan for Europe. To that, the Netherlands reacted in a very prompt manner, I will say, by quickly after that saying, okay, if this is where Europe wants to go, we have to take this as a basis level, and we want to become fully circular by 2050. And then we had this whole process of road mapping and making action plans started and mobilized. What I do think that the Netherlands are still doing very differently from all the other countries in this is the understanding that you cannot have a circular economy in an isolated way, and therefore a big investment with all the different decentralized offices that the Netherlands has, including the consulates and the embassies, in order to facilitate the communication and to help other countries become circular as well. And so this is something that is still unique when you watch at least Europe. It's still unique belonging to the Netherlands to such a level. Other countries are trying, but it's something where Europe should also learn.
Thank you very much. I want to believe I was able to pick quite a number of what he said, but some of the items coming out from his submission is: one, you cannot deliver the circular economic model in isolation. You need to work collaboratively. Secondly, you need to also be able to look back and find a way to ensure that you do not only focus on economic gains as businessmen or as government, but also to manage your environment, right? So I'll be moving on to, I would like to have my friend from MAN last, because they are the receiving hand of every economic management change or policy tweaking. So I would like to turn to Mr. Orinowo. How can the consular support the state government in putting up a framework for the delivery of the economic model? That is a circular economic model. What are your plans? What are you looking at? Thank you.
Right, thank you. I think for us, there's a lot of work that has been going on over the years. And I think what is profound, and I think Leonie did mention yesterday, is our support for Lagos State government to develop a roadmap. And we actually are ready to go, but some of the intelligence that we are taking is the fact that we realize that there's a lot of work going on at the national level, and a lot of partners are working in silos. The EU through UNIDO and the National Circular Economy Working Group is doing significant work in developing a national roadmap for Nigeria. We don't want to on our own then begin developing a parallel roadmap for Lagos State government that is not in alignment with the federal government or the federal roadmap. So the cue we're taking is, let us support the National Working Group through the significant work that UNIDO is doing with the EU partnership. Then from there, we take lessons, or even perhaps just be a ratification or an adoption of the national roadmap, but now fitting into the Lagos context in terms of what we're going to do. So we're ready and just waiting for that process to be completed. We're part of that conversation as well. And once that is done, we're ready to kickstart it, not just for Lagos, but for other states in the Southwest. Oyo State has also shown interest. And the model we're also going with is that we understand that while government will continue, or the importance of government playing a significant role as far as policy framework. One of the things I picked from what Luca did say, and my own understanding of what has happened around the world, is the intentionality for circular economy. You know, without that clear intentionality, it will not just happen by magic. It's okay for us to set an ambitious goal and say maybe by 2030 or by 2060, but beyond those documents or those ambitions is now the critical work, small little actions that need to be taken on our part. A roadmap can just be there. There are so many roadmaps scattered across Nigeria that are not delivering anything in substance. So we must have that clear, and we are rooted in that understanding. And that's why for us it's important that the private sector must play a lead role. The private and the social sector must be actively engaged in if that transfer from linear to circular is going to be achieved. So it's a multi-stakeholder approach, and we believe that enterprise is at the front of this. In Africa today, right now, the circular economy is what is a $7 trillion economy. So for some people, it might not be the environment. It's unfortunate that for us, sometimes environment does not have the required buzzword or reflective of the kind of weight it should carry. This morning, Luca was showing me somewhere in Italy where he visits over the summer period. And just yesterday, right now, the entire place has been consumed with fire. It's never going to remain the same again. We might be fortunate not to have those kind of natural disasters, but it doesn't still mean that it doesn't have its implications on poverty for us. So it's important that we connect the dots. If it's the economic side of things, let us push that forward. Circular economy offers an opportunity to leapfrog our people out of poverty. So if that's the narrative we are pushing to empower our people, I think by all means. So for us, enterprise, the value creation that must happen from that, how our people can ultimately be empowered, the poverty indicators can go down, that is definitely an area for us. So we're about the business. Let government do their work as far as regulation and enabling environment. Let business do their work. Let the rest of us who are in the social sector on the advocacy part, on the behavioral change part, also do their work. Thank you.
Yeah, the government should do its work by providing the enabling environment. Those in the private sector should take the lead, and those in the advocacy level should also assist in pushing out the information out there that we are moving from the linear way of getting things done to circularity. However, personally, I have a challenge, and I've been thinking about it. Maybe I will leave that question to the end, but I would like to turn to my friend, Adejoh, from Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. What are your expectations from this intended, or no, what we have already started, embracing? What are your expectations from the circular economic model?
The initiator of this particular exercise. The truth is that before now, or before it became it becomes a subject of discussion, MAN and her members, most of her members, they've been surviving on circular economy. The truth is that we have about 10 sectors in MAN, 72 subsectors, and basically where we find ourselves as a nation today, we are import dependent on raw material. And at the moment, we lack forests to bring in raw materials. So most of our industries revolve around making use of the waste, recycling. If you look at from pulp paper to metals, the scrap industry, the value chain is very wide. And I can tell us categorically that long before now, most of the surviving industries you have in Nigeria today, they are able to survive because they've been able to adapt this circular model of production. Number one, if you look at sourcing for raw materials, basically the cost is high. We are not competitive. We are challenged as a nation. So the truth is that if you go to the plastic industry, for example, recycling is the bane of sustenance for the plastic industry. And the issue we are going to have, like I said, I commend you guys for this initiative, but how involved is our government going to adopt this policy? Thank God Lagos State government was here yesterday. Outside the state government, we need to have a harmonized policy whereby both the state and federal government will be on the same page. The manufacturers in Nigeria today are the receiving end of most of these policies. And one thing we should look at, we want to promote circular economy. Circular economy will make our environment safer. Circular economy will create more jobs for Nigeria. Circular economy will generate more revenue for government. But for us to get it right, I think the first thing we need to put on the table in the roadmap, let's incentivize circular economy. When you put incentive on the table, you can be able to promote this. For example, if you go to the plastic industry, today most of our drainages are blocked because we have plastic waste on the streets. And what measures are both the federal government and the state government putting in place to reduce this waste? We have factories today that are into recycling, crushing of plastics. I think there should be incentive in place to encourage more companies to come into crushing this plastic. And before you begin to think of maybe generating revenue, you need to look at the margin, the turnover, the number of people you will encourage to go into this particular industry. If you look at our metal industry today, what we are doing today is basically recycling the scraps. So the effect of scrap littering around the society is gradually reducing, affecting our environment positively. So what we have to say here today is that man is in supportive of circular economy, manufacturers are in supportive of circular economy. If there is a better time to talk about circular economy, it is now, because we can no longer import, because we cannot access forests. And for how long are we going to continue to export what we have in abundance that is causing a nuisance to our economy? So please, I think, let me stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love that last submission. There's no better time for us to adopt the circular economy model than now, especially when it is difficult to access foreign exchange. But more critically, it is also much more important now because we need to also be able to manage the resources that we have in such a manner that we don't have to push out most of our funds to overseas producers. I will be turning to Josefine. Josefine, I said I have a question. I think I'm going to throw it at you. Is circular economy only limited to material management? Does it affect service delivery? Because everybody knows that mainly what we have with respect to governance, public sector is all about service delivery. We are not in the process of product manufacturing. So is circular economy, can we adopt it in governance, and in what way can it be effective? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I trust you hear me. Okay, I think I'm still a little low, but I'm trusting that will be adjusted soon. Thank you so much for this question, and also for the opportunity to be with you today, even though it's just remotely. And thank you for the contributions. I think we already got quite really important points how the circular economy can be brought further, generally and specifically in Nigeria. To your question for the government, I mean, what we do mainly, we do work with public institutions to develop national strategies. And this requires to look into what is out there, what is in place, what is working well and what not. And often we even notice that capacity plays a very big role even in government. This is why it's so important to consider when it comes to service delivery to make sure that capacity is there. And there are many different means how we encourage this. This can be done through targeted trainings for the government and also the other stakeholder groups, which all have to be brought on one level so that the understanding of the circular economy and its benefits and services and products it can deliver can be aligned. At the same time, policy plays a really big role, right? So I talked about the gaps that we might identify while developing such roadmaps and addressing them through policy, adding new policy and especially revising policy and applying circular economy elements into existing legislation is very important. And this then should stimulate the service delivery that you were just addressing. So on the one hand, the capacity building is very important, and then making sure that circular economy is well embedded in existing regulations so that service delivery can happen. Because indeed our society, and especially also Nigeria, is walking towards a digital society, and digitalization is a very important enabler for the circular economy. So I think especially there it plays a really big role to putting these elements together to ensure that the services and products of the circular economy can be developed in the best way possible.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that we all appreciate the fact that, again, it has been re-emphasized that we need to be programmatic in our project and process delivery. The second line of questions, I think I would like to answer the very first one. If you all look at the program you have on Lagos State government, somebody asked a question that we should start incentivizing the circular economic model, trash, all those stuff. Lagos State is the first state to come up with a concept of trash for cash. I don't know whether Dr. Fashowe is somewhere around here. We encouraged it, and immediately it has a huge impact. Citizens are encouraged to pack their plastic waste in return for cash. And if you pass through the Obalende underbridge, I'm sure some of us knows what that place used to be like. Today, you will hardly see any plastic waste. Do you know why? Lagos State government pays for those trash. You pack them, there's a particular kilogram you pick and you give to us, and we pay you cash. So Lagos State is in the forefront of that initiative, but we would like to encourage more citizens to be part of it, and definitely we'll be looking forward to working with you. That's the first one. If you look at, again, I was talking about the application of circular economic model to service beyond material usage for product production. If you look at your program, you'll find at the back Lagos State Printing Corporation. It's our own way of ensuring that we revolve our resource within the system, because we know that the taxpayers' money is so limited and finite, and as such, spending that money outside of the system will do us little good. As such, what we did is to ensure that we circulate that money within the environment. That's one of our understanding of how to apply the principle of circular economic model within the governance system. I hope that is clear. So I'll go to the next set of questions, and I'm going to turn to my friend, Orinowo, right? Yeah, beyond the talk, at what point are you willing, when I say you, I'm talking of the Kingdom of Netherlands and other consular around your environment that have adopted the circular economic model, at what point are you ready and willing to support us, not just to drop the roadmap, but to come up with actionable steps that are measurable and also make this type of a seat sustainable, maybe an annual event or a biannual event, in order for us to be able to measure how far we've been able to go in the implementation and adoption of the circular economic model. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Interestingly, we just developed the Netherlands strategy for circular economy in Nigeria, and we're working across 3 work streams. The first right now is policy development, which is part of the reason why we're here. The understanding that without the right policy framework, I think one of the things I even wanted to emphasize, which my brother from MAN was talking about, is the fact that the only way circular economy has worked across the world is the intentionality of government to create markets. Market sometimes does not just create itself. Some people created that opportunity for demand and supply. We all remember when pure water, somebody came up with the revolution of pure water, realizing that there was a market right now at the bottom of the pyramid for clean water without the bottle, cheaper and all that. So there is a need to have a policy framework or a policy environment that creates. Normally people who are chasing profits would obviously see the opportunity and go to it. So there's a responsibility, which is what the policy does. Just to break it down in simple terms, there must be an enabling environment to encourage people, both in terms of resources. So on the policy side, we're partnering with governments. The Netherlands is not working in isolation. Lagos State government, federal government, how do we have the right policy framework to encourage circular businesses? Second would be that, and even beyond that also, we've moved to the investment. We understand the role that money plays in that. And recently, through Invest International, for those of us who know Invest International, opened a desk with Access Bank, to be able to support businesses within the circular economy space to access funding for your business, and the low-hanging fruit is that being that the country is a leader in circular economy is to say that seek partnership with existing companies in NL to say that, okay, where is the point of synergy? Then you have the resources as well to be able to scale and establish the organization. The company who was mentioned yesterday, Closing the Loop, is a Netherlands-based company, but with partners here in Lagos, in Ghana, seeking to establish the first electronic smelter in Lagos. So we encourage those kind of partnerships, and there's also resource available, to scale those enterprises. The third is also the SMEs. We understand that beyond the high-level enterprises, the Fortune 500 or aspiring Fortune 500, is the role SME plays, where young people and young women right now are playing in that space. And we have a program called the Orange Corner, Nigeria, where we support small, medium-scale enterprises within the circular economy space, both in terms of an incubation program where you go through training, connecting you to resources and the network required right now for your business to thrive. So those three areas form the core of our work in Nigeria. Policy, linkages between leading NL businesses in the circular economy space and Nigerian spaces. We organize trade missions, or what are the areas of opportunity, opening market. I was talking to a lady, one of the exhibitors here earlier this morning, and she was talking about the major challenge that she has is market. So for some people, really, sometimes there's so much about, grants, funding. Sometimes it's just opening up the market and just providing platform right now for our enterprises to be able to sell across the continent, then of course across the world. So that intentionality, that vigor to create these opportunities are part of the things that we're pursuing. Thank you.
So basically, we need to be deliberate. We need to also deepen the partnership engagement and also deepen the citizens' engagement at all fronts, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. To Poli, right? So the question I'm going to be asking you, I haven't pushed this far. What are the opportunities available with Holland Circular Hotspot, and what are you willing to do for Lagosians through the Lagos State government?
So, as you also yesterday, we, together with the state governor, we committed to sign a memorandum of understanding to seek more collaboration between Holland Circular Hotspot, the government, and the different countries that are involved in the agreement. Of course, this means that we do not expect activities to be only governmental hubs, but we expect also the civil society, companies, and bring on board and to collaborate with us. If you look at what is the state of the art, we, together with our colleagues from the African Circular Economy Network, we supported the organization of the Circular Economy Lagos event, and I think this can be the beginning, but I'm looking forward to work more on exchanging good practices, exchanging knowledge. For example, we were speaking before about how the role of incentives, and in the Netherlands we did apply incentives. We also realized that incentives is not enough, and you also need to disincentivize and have specific taxes or make some things mandatory in the law. So on policy-wise, there is a lot of knowledge exchange that can be driven. And also, I think today we in the last 2 years, we have worked in the making of the Lagos Circular Business Platform. This is, of course, in our strategy of having a network of circular economy hubs around the world. Now, these hubs must be, circular economy happens at a local level, and so I really believe that we need to go to more and more local, more regional hubs. So even in Nigeria, I would like to see more hubs here and there in specific regions where there are specific needs. And on that, we are open to collaborate for sure. Of course, we look forward to see how it will be concretized, but for the moment, the power of the willingness is there.
Thank you very much. Adejoh, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria is a representative of the private sector, right? And we'd like to deepen private sector participation in initiatives of this nature. What are the intentions at the moment, and at what point, because we need to kick the ground running, and we are looking at sustaining this opportunity. At what point are you willing to come up with your support for this initiative in order for us to start earning the gains as quickly as possible?
Well, thank you. If you ask that question at what point, I will answer now. Because our challenges are known. I did mention incentive. We're not asking for cash. Incentive, we have diverse incentives. Today, R&D is key to promoting circular economy. Let me cite an example. One of our crude palm refining factory, recently, because of the high cost of energy, they are now using shell of cashew nut to fire their boilers. And the boilers they are firing is in hundreds of tons palm. So what we are saying is that we are ready because we have manufacturers that are willing to key into it. A lot of them recycling, they have the intention, they have the initiative, but how to go about some of these things to come out with better product. Let me cite for another example again. If you look at the plastic industry, Lagos is doing cash for trash. But SON will come with a policy tomorrow that you need virgin material to produce this same plastic. Meanwhile, we have crushers. We have people who can recycle. So our major challenge, we need to harmonize this policy so that we can be on the same page. It will save us less cost to use trash, and it will save the environment, it will serve the government, and it will create more jobs. But where we may have issue, what is the quality of the outcome? Some of our people are still evolving, and our economy is an emerging one. We are not yet there. So maybe what some of them are used to or were used to is the linear production means where you get raw materials, inject them into your mold, it comes out with a particular product. But today, our regulators are saying that some of these products, they don't meet standards. If they don't meet standards, then how do you help these people to do this thing better? Government has its own role. The private sector has its own role. And let me tell us, manufacturing is the only business you do out of passion. It's unlike trading and services, whereby you invest. Tomorrow, if it is not working, you sell to another person and you leave. Manufacturing, once you buy your machine, you cannot sell. Once you bring in the machine, you need to look for somebody who has the type of interest you used to have before you went into it to sell it to the person. So a lot of our members are stuck with their production model. So what we want now, and the kind of support we want, is we need you guys to go beyond the framework. How do you support us in research? Because today, if you go to most of our industrial parks, they are ever ready to key into this. And like I said earlier, before this became a point of discussion, Nigerian manufacturers already adopted it, trying to see how they can recycle. And let me shock us. There are some of our waste today, some of this plastic waste, like the pallets that companies like Nigerian breweries use. Today, our plastic industries are finding it difficult to recycle it. These are areas we need interventions. They've been doing it on their own, but for government to help us to promote this initiative, we need R&D, we need support. And let me conclude by saying we are ready to key in now.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be going back to Joseph. Are you there? Joseph? Fantastic.
Yes.
How can you be of support to Lagos State Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, or possibly beyond Lagos State? What are your plans?
Thank you. I'm pleased to answer this question. So, as I mentioned earlier, we are working on national, regional, and even a continental strategy to implement the circular economy in Africa and different African countries. And we are also working on a national roadmaps for Nigeria. And even though our main beneficiary is the government that we are working with, however, in developing this national roadmap, we are really emphasizing the role of the private sector, civil society, and the informal sector. So, and as it was already rightly mentioned, the industry in Nigeria and Lagos State is big, is very keen. So it's great to see that, and we are very happy to include you in this process. And once this roadmap is developed, where we really stress the role of the industry and also provide and develop very tangible and important actions to pursue and enable industry as well, because we know, I mean, policy comes with a vision, policy comes with directions, and can also play a big role in aligning and harmonizing the understanding of where we want to go to and what the circular economy means for the country. But we also really need this private sector to implement these actions and the vision. So already having them included in the development process is really key, and then also developing the actions and future initiatives in a way that the private sector can implement this very well, and where public and private sector can actually go and work well hand in hand is very important. So this is the immediate contribution that we are currently doing, but we are also very happy to help in the implementation process through strategic support, also building the capacity in the government that I was mentioning earlier, but also assisting capacity building in other stakeholder groups, and really making sure that this goes well hand in hand, and that the national action plan is followed up and implemented, because we all know, even if we have like a great national strategy or policy legislation in place, it often is lacking the implementation on the ground. So this is what we would love to follow up together with you as well. And then at the same time, we have other experience in the region, on the continent, even from the EU, and their knowledge exchange plays a really big role as well, to leverage the knowledge, find synergies, find collaboration potentials in finance and innovation. So it's a big box of where we could support further, but I think in the coming month, it will become more clear as well. But through our network, the African Circular Economy Network, we are present in many different countries, and we have a great chapter and representation in Nigeria as well, which is working hard on bringing circular economy forward. So I'm very confident that there will be many opportunities to work together.
Thank you very much, Jocelyn. I know you always have something to share us about. Manufacturers Association made mention of something that Lagos State is already championing, and that has to do with what we call a concept of extended producers' responsibility being managed by the Ministry of Environment through Lagos State, through LASEPA, Lagos State, what's it called now? Environmental Protection Agency. Here we are telling the original producers of plastics that they shall be responsible for the end life of their produce. So as a manufacturer of, let's say, PET bottle drinks, you should be responsible for certain aspects of disposal and possibly recycling and reusing of your materials. That is in the work, and we will be pushing that out as soon as possible. Before we close, I would like to give the audience two on this side and two to the left of the participants. If you have any questions to ask any member of the panel, can you bring forth your question? Do I have mics to pass around? I have a hand up. Two. So can you give them the microphone, please? I have one here. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adejoh Omotunde. I work for Federal Ministry of Environment. I want to appreciate Lagos State for taking up this challenge to put this platform forward for us to all think of how we go into the future, in achieving the circular economy. And I would like to thank the panelists for your contributions on this subject matter. But I quickly want to, mine is not a question really, but I just want to kind of throw some light on some of the issues that you have raised. You said something about how government should be involved in the issue of service delivery as per circular economy. And what came to my mind readily is the issue of procurement. I think we need to be deliberate and intentional about procurement processes as the government. What do we buy? Which equipment do we use? How do we ensure that the kind of equipment that we procure can last for longer? And then we need to also begin to look at how do we encourage leasing, equipment leasing, instead of buying new equipment outrightly. In these areas, we can begin to promote circularity. I also, when Man was talking, I was surprised that he said what is being done when it comes to the issue of plastic. A lot is being done, and I think one of the issues that we have all identified in this room since yesterday is that people are working in silos. We need to begin to collaborate and to ensure that we carry ourselves along. Sometimes some of these meetings that are being spearheaded at the federal level, when people are invited, representations are not adequate. And so we go ahead and things are being done without some very, very key stakeholders. But I can tell you that Man has been involved at several levels of engagement in ensuring that the roadmap is put in place. And like Mr. Onimole said, that we don't need another roadmap in Lagos. We need to focus on the national roadmap, work at it together, so that we all run to implement it on the same level, which is what we hope we will achieve. And that is what is very key. We need to work together as players in this sector. Manufacturers are key. We have been carrying manufacturers along. Lagos State should also look for ways within the state beyond what federal is doing to ensure that we engage manufacturers even at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was able to pick two things. Maybe my colleagues will also help me if I missed out anything. With respect to governance in public service, adoption of circular economy can be done through the instrumentality of public procurement, right? And secondly, we also need to have some form of intergovernmental collaboration. Rather than working in silos, we should be able to dovetail what we are having at the national level, which has already been mentioned by my colleague here, so that everybody will be on the same page. Thank you so much. Okay, my boss.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, participants. I think that there's a problem with us accessing information and
at the federal level.
No, not really. People don't go to the extent of just pushing out much information. I think the BOI has a lot to do to support manufacturers and small and medium-scale businesses. But I don't think we've harnessed that institution enough. We have not gone to that institution to demand for what should, because they are there to support the industries, whether they are big industries or small-scale industries. And I also think that we don't do the hard work of a lot of research into financing. And some of the banks too are sitting on some of those money, but if you don't come to them to ask for those funding, they won't say anything. Because the business they like is the quicker ones. You know, the turnaround time for banks in this environment is a bit clumsy. And I think that we should do more research into what fundings are. There are a lot of fundings available at the federal level, and there are a lot of instrumentality that we can use to access funding. So we must all work together, like our colleague from the Federal Ministry of Environment has said that we should work together to harmonize this position, and people should come out with more information from the federal level so that people will know that this is available for them to be able to take on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sorry, my name is Gaji Omobolaji. I'm the Permanent Secretary, Office of the Environmental Services, Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, Lagos.
Thank you very much, sir. One more question before we round up for the day.
All right.
Sorry, can we have the mic in this? To the left of the hall, at the back.
Okay, all right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Polidori. I'm a National Geographic Young Explorer. So I have a question. Not a question per se. When you talk about research and diving into circular economy, I want to implore that the techniques that should be used should be science-oriented, research-oriented. Because diving into circular economy, some of the practices have health hazard impacts, right? And because we are right on point, circular economy needs to be embraced. And recently, there have been some research about how recycling of plastics, right, if not done properly, can also procure health hazards to the lives of humans. So when one of the panelists was talking about research, investment in research, it is something that should be prioritized. I don't know if that is also in play, but in all of our plans to adopt circular economy, I want us to take it to make research as one of the foundations in practice that we are going to be adopting in recycling, upcycling, other circular economy practices. We should tailor it down to the health hazards on those that are using them, not just for using sake. Because sometimes recycling will not solve all of these problems. And talking about waste alone, what about contaminants that leach into our body system, right? So how do we also address some of these issues? Then that is one. Then secondly, it is good to start something. Sustain it on the long run. It's the major cost. You know, talking about recycling of plastics and all of that, if you get some locations today, you will still see plastics around, despite they're incentivizing them over there massively. So sometimes it's not only about the funds, not only about the incentives. How do we sustain active participation of people in that environment? And especially relating to their peculiarities. The way you would incentivize people in an urban area is not the same way you would incentivize people in a rural area. They're quite different. Thank you.
So we will be rounding up shortly. Basically what came out from that last submission is the need for us, beyond just carrying out an R&D, we should also be mindful of the health impact of recycling materials, right? Okay. At this point, I would like to give each of the panelists 30 seconds. Okay, we have questions.
Yes, I have a question. My name is Olatunde Taiwo. I'm a recycler. The difference between recovery and recycling, there are differences between recovery and recycling. I'm speaking because I am a micro, small business recyclers. Now, what do you actually have for the micro, small, medium recyclers in Lagos State? One, that is a question. Then, another thing we discovered is that a lot of people they don't have even a factory, but yet, when they apply for grants, they give to them. They don't have factories, they are doing nothing. A lot of us who are doing something, we have never gotten any grant from them, even from government. People will come to your factories, they will snap pictures, they snap your machinery, they use it and collect grants. They don't even have the time, those people giving out the grants don't even have the time to visit the factory. So what are you going to do on that? Because then another question is that the reason why we are still having problems concerning this recycling thing is that a lot of people only recover. Nobody to teach them how they can convert the plastic into fiber film. Nobody to teach them this is what you will get from this. That missing link is there. So what is Netherlands going to do on that? And at the same time, as a micro small businesses, I think we don't need gigantic machines to go into recycling. Because a lot of us, we have done a lot of research on our own without government support to use smaller machines that we can use for production. So what are they going to do on that area where they can begin to teach our youth, our women, that look, this plastic, this is what and what and what you are going to do to produce the finished products. That is the area we are going. Not until we are able to address that area of producing finished products made from waste plastics, we are going nowhere. So please, we need that research and development. I personally wrote a letter to Firo. Look, we need to do a research work. Till today, that thing did not work. So if the Netherlands are ready to do it, fine. We need to make sure that our youth and women are producing finished products from waste plastics. That is where we are going. If we start to do that, a lot of plastics will disappear in our ocean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam. The response I'm going to give to that is that at the beginning of this administration, the very first activity of Mr. Governor is to move around the establishments responsible for socially protecting the state with the mindset of protecting the women, gender with respect to girl child, and also the poor and the vulnerable. So clearly there are plans, and if you look at the operating system of the state, like Mr. Governor did mention yesterday, we've moved from the teams framework for project delivery to what we call the Teams Plus. The plus there is about social inclusiveness. So clearly, we have you at the back of our mind, and definitely we're going to be collaborating with you. That's one. Then secondly, with respect to research and development, one of the expected outcome of this program is in the collaboration with Holland Circular Hotspot to assist in deepening that side, assist in being able to identify the end products from the beginning. So you've actually spoken to the value chain, so those ones will be at the operational level of this particular discussion. So clearly you have that at the back of our mind. With respect to assisting those that are in the system and protecting them from those using their pictures to access grants, I believe you need to come forward more and discuss with the government, because you are also part of the government. We cannot be everywhere at the same time. So you need to come forward more. And I also like to respond to what Dr. Gaji did mention. Yes, you only plan on what you have facts on, and that is the data. So I will delve to my sister from the Federal Ministry of Environment to please try as much as possible, deepen your collaboration with the Lagos State government, especially through your counterpart at the state level. Share information and data with them, because without this data, we will only be planning out of scope, right? So whether we like it or not, we need this data for us to be able to make informed decisions. And lastly, you spoke about the need for us to develop human capacity. That is on the forefront of the government, and we definitely continue on that, but we cannot alone do it, and that's why we need this collaboration. So at this point, I would like to yield to the panelists to just give 30 seconds closing remarks. So I'll start with the Manufacturers of Association of Nigeria.
Well, let me thank you for this opportunity, and let me commend Lagos State government for partnering with you guys to bring up this initiative. One thing I like to say is that we need to work in harmony. There is no way we can make progress without working in harmony. federal government working out its own policy, the state government working out its own policy. It doesn't help us, the private sector. Recently, we were able to convince the federal government to postpone the implementation of green tax. And what is green tax? Aimed at curbing waste, majorly from plastics. And who are those at the receiving end? The major manufacturers. One thing I like to state here is that we have a lot of SMEs who are just going into the market, buy blown bottles, use it to package their product. Nobody knows their address. With this kind of tax initiative, a lot of them will never own up. They will never come out and they will not grow. So I will appeal to both the state government and the federal government, because the plastic policy coming up, manufacturers in Lagos are going to take responsibility for the waste that are going to be generated. But mind you, known manufacturers. What will happen to the unknown manufacturers? So at this point, I will appeal to both of them. Let's see how we can harmonize this policy. Because we cannot have green tax where a bottle of Coke, you'll be expected to pay 10 naira on a bottle of Coke. Customs will be at your facilities. The challenges we are facing right now is enormous. So if we want to really promote circular economy, we need to come up with initiative that will allow people to own up to what they are doing. Initiative that will allow people to invest into the process of seeing how to make their raw materials become better product or turn it around. At this point, I want to thank you. Man will always be willing to support and be part of this initiative in as much as it is not going to increase our revenue or tax liability. Thank you so much.
In as much as it's not going to increase reduce their revenue or increase their tax liability. I love that shot. So I'm leaving the for Orinowo to give his last shot.
Right, thank you.
30 seconds.
Right, I think I should commend, I think this is perhaps the only opportunity I have to commend the Technical Working Group of Lagos State. It's been significant work that has been done in putting this together, and it's been an honor working with the committee as well to make it happen. But I would say that this is just a step in the so many million miles and race that we have to get Lagos State and Nigeria to the right place. And I felt the need to also address the micro enterprises that the last speaker did mention. And being that I have background within the donor space and all that, I know that there is something called donor darling. And it's like the same set of people who are accessing funding, accessing grants, and it's an issue. It's unfortunate, but I think that one of the steps that I would say that would work is the need to form consortiums at that level as well. You are always stronger together. So if you are micro, can you get other micro like yourselves and come together and form an association and use that converging body right now to leverage access? And it's good that you are here, so it means that you're doing the right thing. I also want to say that I felt like we put the government on the spot the other time in terms of need for collaboration. I would say that even we as development partners need to collaborate more. We need to talk to ourselves more. 2 weeks ago, I was at a program that was converged by the UK government, also trying to come into the circular economy space in Lagos and Nigeria. And some of the things they wanted to do are things that we are already doing. So there's a need right now for, even at that level, for more collaboration, more conversation. There's a lot of work for everybody to do. So if there's one space that does not need competition, it is circular economy space, because one person's waste is another person's input. So we need that cross-cutting collaboration. Everyone needs to come together to pull their weights. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Collaboration is key. One person's waste is another person's input. So I'm going to yield back to Josefine. Your parting shot, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I try my best. There's some background noise on my end, but I hope you hear me clearly. Thanks as well for the opportunity to be with you today. And I think I just want to stress once more the role of policy. Of policy tools, we have heard a few examples like public procurement, taxation, that plays a really big role to really drive the market and enable industry, but also the very small practitioners. It will just benefit those that do good already and are on a very good way towards the circular economy. because what we really have to focus on is scaling those really great examples. So we have to give them the floor, showcase them, and try to scale them and support them in the best way possible. And the last point I want to make is that interregional collaboration plays a really big role here as well when it comes to knowledge exchange, but also the exchange and alignment of policy. Because interregional trade is also a great enabler when it comes to the circular economy, recycling, regional recycling hubs, or even trade of recycled and recovered products. So I just wanted to stress this as well, and I thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Luca?
Yes, so first of all, thank you for being so quick, and I think in such a short time we've covered a lot of different topics. I have only one last message that I think is important to keep in mind. We have spoken about the importance of collaboration and public-private collaboration. We have spoken about looking at the whole value chain. Now, in the whole value chain, you need the infrastructure to make circular value chains. And infrastructures, if you think about plastic, you have the separation, you have the collection its efficiency, you have the recycling. And these are investments that are good when they come and quicker when they come in a public-private way. Now, I think that something that has not been stressed enough and we should stress more is the role of bigger companies. They have the potential to invest in such infrastructure together with the government. Outside, we have a very beautiful stand from Pepsi. We have a fifth chair, which is white today. There is no one on the fifth chair. It will be amazing to have next year, or when we have the possibility to have a confrontation, more bigger companies in the room and someone to discuss with on top of the small and medium enterprises to see how can we exactly redesign circular value chain locally and invest together towards a circular future.
Thank you very much. I could pick the fact that the big companies need to start doubling up their efforts at supporting the smaller ones in their quest to adopt the circular economy initiatives. We are going to close by summarizing some of the items we'll be able to pick. Clearly, one, we've been able to identify the need for us to sustain the intergovernmental collaboration through data sharing, step up the communication, and also, much more importantly, be deliberate and intentional in our approach. Clearly, if we're going to get anything out of this, we need to set the roadmap now, not necessarily the roadmap with respect at the national level that was made mention by my sister, but the roadmap at the near term, what do we intend to achieve? On the medium term, what do we intend to achieve? And on the long term, where do we expect us to be? The Kingdom of Netherlands has already set 2050 as a target to be fully compliant with the Circular Economy Initiative. Where does Nigeria stand? So at this point, I would like to say a very big thank you to everybody for listening, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.